Okay, this is Dr. Adoni. This is my site, saladoni.com. Today I'm going to do this video about the Sumerian king list. So if you go to Wiki, look up the Sumerian king list, you'll see this picture here. This is a 4-panel view of the prism. You can see there's a lot of cuneiform on there. And basically it's been translated to be all about the kings that ruled Sumeria from their prehistory to about 1800 BC when this was transcribed. There's a lot of people that think that the early kings lived these phenomenal lives, and my argument is that this isn't really a historical document, it's a math primer. And the reason I'm saying that is these numbers are special numbers that were assigned to the early kings that we delegate as mythological. So we'll start off with the first thing is that they're saying these kings descended from heaven, and that's why you have the ancient alien crowd saying these were aliens and gods that came in spaceships. Well, this phrase is even in use today, where we say a king is of divine origin. In other words, he's anointed or appointed, like a Messiah in Hebrew. Messiah means someone that did something extraordinary, that God or the gods was behind their movement. So even today, you have divine rulership in England. The Queen is supposed to be from a line of kings and queens, that someone way back in time did something extraordinary to create that civilization, and now they're considered descendants of a divine seed. Not that they came to Earth in a spaceship, it's just that, there was something exceptional about them that the God shined upon them. So we have this concept today, and that's what this concept was. It was talking about divine rulership, okay, not aliens and spaceships. Now, as far as these big numbers, they're not years, okay? These are all numbers that are connected to the Sumerian calendar of 360 days. So when you start dividing these numbers that they say are years, they're actually days. The first number, 28,800, divided by 360 is 80 years. So when they use this number, and the first 8 kings have these numbers that are all connected to division of 360, that's why I'm saying it's a math primer. Next number is 36,000, so that's real easy, 100 years. Can a person live to be 80 or 100? Yeah, people live to those ages today. Now this is the big number, 43,200. It's also the seconds in half a day. You got 43,200 seconds in 12 hours. Well, it's 120 years. This was days, okay? And the reason they're saying these are years is that when you look at the text, you can go over to the Oxford University in England, and this is their translation. It's showing, these big numbers, and they're saying years. Well, this is the phonetic text that they took it for. And this word over here, mu, it is normally not translated as years. So it's saying the king with the name of. So that's why I'm saying it's name of. And if you look up these words, you can see that the word name is mu. So it's normally translated as name, not years. And then the last part of it, the act, the ak is mathematical, to do something, like to do an equation. Ak in the Sumerian lexicon, to act, to make into. So again, once you realize this is a mathematical text, and these numbers are all easily divisible, the first 6 numbers, first 6 kings are all perfectly divided by 360. Now, the next 2 kings, 21,000 and 18,600, those don't divide evenly. They create repeat fractions, which are very rare. Okay? So one fraction is 0.333, the other fraction is 0.666. These are concepts in math that they're using to teach students basic principles of multiplication, division, adding, subtracting, fractions, etc. Okay, so 360 is the key to understanding these numbers. And when you add up all these numbers, okay, and divide by 360, it comes out to 670 years. So this period of time is almost 700 years prehistory that, they're not really possibly accurate historical records, but it's more in line with the period of time that we know Sumeria existed. Okay, now it's written in the 18th century, and when you start scrolling through this list on Wiki, you see once they get down to a certain year, then all of a sudden the numbers that they're talking about are more around the 25th to the 27th century, in line to what people could easily have ruled for 80 years, 36 years, etc. Okay. Now the second wave of kings starts here after the flood, when you have big numbers, and now all of a sudden you have short numbers. Well, I still believe these big numbers because they're big for years. People don't live 1,200 years. But could a king rule after a flood in chaos for 1,200 days? Sure, that's almost 4 years. So they're showing here a whole bunch of kings that had short reigns. 1,000 days, 300 days, 400 days, 720 days. Okay, 2 years. Okay. These numbers, when you add them all up, is about 50 years of days. So we have 50 years right after the flood. We have 670 years before the flood. 720. That's the magical number. That's 2 circles. 360 degrees in a circle, 360 days in a year, and you double it, 720. So all these kings, if these are days, adds up to 720 years. And then we start getting into the more realistic times. And it's thought to be a pretty accurate history once we get into the 26th century or so. So now 2600 BC, you add 700 to it, it goes back to about 3300 BC if we use the first 2 waves of kings as days instead of years. Were the Sumerians around 3300 BC? Yeah, they sure were. Okay, so it becomes a much more plausible history if we correctly use the early numbers as days instead of years. And then we start seeing all types of math issues that shows it's most likely was a primer that was in widespread use. That's why there's so many versions of these numbers throughout, quite a few years. We've been finding a lot of these king lists. And these king lists were referred to, by 300 BC historians, like Bessarius from Babylon. He's not that highly regarded, but again, these sensational numbers were misunderstood 2,000 years after they were written. And that's when, Babylonian guys forgot, what this thing was about. It was about days and math. And it was a primer, so they're using it as we have today as a mythological great length of time that these rulers lived on Earth. Well, that's not what I view this as. I view this as 720 years of kings. We use division of days, and then we have a pretty accurate recording of kings after. Around 2600. So that's remarkable in itself. When you consider that these tablets were written 1800 BC and they go back pretty accurately 700 years, that's almost 1,000 years. And then they're talking about another 700 years that we haven't found verification of these names yet, but they might still be in the future on Earth. These were actual figures. Or they just might be mythological that they knew they had been around for at least 700 years, and they created these math primers with some historical reference, so they're teaching math and history at the same time. It's actually a very feasible way to teach. So if you do the research, people, and look around what these words mean, you're going to find that the keyword mu is normally a name instead of years. You're going to I3-AK, Yak, is normally connected to mathematical writings, like to do a function. So all these things point not to a historical kings list, but a math primer, which is a revolutionary concept in our understanding of the Sumerians. So this video is going to have a link where you can go and check out my academic paper on it. My site, Adoni, will have an article and a link on it. The link will go over to pedius.com, an academic encyclopedia that'll have the paper on there. You can read it for free. And I got over 100 books I've written over the years, a lot of academic papers. I've written a lot of things about, ancient civilizations that are lost, pyramids, ley lines, all kinds of stuff. Upas, out of place artifacts, things that make no sense with our current understanding of history. So check out my site, solidoni.com, and have a great day.